After Rome's iconic Trevi Fountain was bathed in red light recently to represent the blood spilt throughout the world by current Christian martyrs and to bring attention to their plight, this week a new light was shed on the situation, and this time in northern Italy. The 11th century Basilica of St. Abbondio in Como was illuminated in a red light in memory of the blood shed each day by Christian martyrs throughout the world. The Basilica of St. Abbondio also contains the relics of two great martyrs persecuted for their faith, Saints Peter and Paul. The event was spearheaded by the Catholic organization Aid to the Church in Need, and the evening's events focused on the recounting of real-life testimonies of the horrific and widespread persecution of Christians. At the end of the evening, in front of the basilica lit with red, the Bishop of Como, Diego Coletti, addressed the crowds. Bishop Coletti had previously noted that, although most major news networks will not carry this event, quote, "This must not discourage us, nor should it prevent us from doing everything possible to ensure people's consciences are enlightened." To do just that, we spoke to Alessandro Monteduro, the National Director of Aid to the Church in Need, Italy.
We told 4 stories of 4 different situations of very recent persecutions and martyrdom. For example, of the 4 nuns killed in Yemen, one of their sisters was from the same congregation, and she described their mission in Yemen, in which 99.9% of the population is Muslim and only 10,000 are Christian. And yet, those 4 sisters were there, courageously helping people and spreading the faith. We told the story of those youngsters killed last year in Garissa in Kenya. One of their student colleagues shared the story. We told, through the testimony of his sister, the story of Don Andrea Santoro, one of our priests tragically killed in 2006 in Turkey. And we also wanted to tell the story of Pakistan. We couldn't have possibly not drawn attention to this, with 2 stories, of Shahbaz Bhatti and Asia Bibi. Shahbaz Bhatti was the brave Christian minister delegated to the minorities, killed precisely because of his efforts to counter the absurd anti-blasphemy law. And the story of Asia Bibi, which so far, thanks be to God and thanks to the pressure exerted by the population and the media, has not yet come to that absurd end, that is, in her death, because that's what it would have been. But even though her death has been avoided so far, we cannot forget that for 4 years to this day, Asia Bibi has been detained in a Pakistani prison for a reason that is yet to be understood. Asia Bibi allegedly, I stress allegedly, invited some thirsty Muslim women to drink from her cup. This seemingly provoked the accusation of blasphemy and sent Asia Bibi to prison, to be precise, to receive the death penalty. We wanted to tell these stories because martyrs are not only those of the previous centuries. Martyrdom unfortunately takes place to this day and age in our very time. I don't think it's possible to allocate an exact number to the amount of persecution taking place in the world. Even if there were only 7 Christians being persecuted instead of 70,000, one could still not refrain from bringing the issue to the attention of the international community. I've been to Erbil, I've been to Kurdistan, I've visited all the Christian refugee camps, and there I encountered thousands and thousands with my own eyes. I got to talk with them, to pray with thousands of families who have left everything to escape the fury and the senseless violence of Islamic fundamentalism, of the Islamic Caliphate, of ISIS. These Christians were forced overnight to leave everything, their respective homes in Mosul or the Nineveh plains, so as to save their faith, their identity, and their roots. Although it is difficult, we are convinced that we are fighting a just battle for these people, a good fight. This office, Aiuto alla Chiesa che soffre, in Italian, Aid to the Church in Need in English is a foundation under the guidance of the Holy Father, which has existed for 69 years. Next year, we will celebrate 70 years. There are 21 sites throughout the world, which in a few months will be 22, as we are opening a site in the Philippines. It has a mission to support the church in places where the church and the Christian community are persecuted, in poverty, or are suffering. In 2015 alone, thanks to Aid to the Church in Need, 6,209 projects were financed in 148 countries. The projects have a consistent pastoral value. We work toward the reconstruction of churches, chapels, and seminaries and vicariates where they have been destroyed or where they are not present. We also carry out training for the religious, nuns, and priests. In the Middle East especially, we are deepening our efforts thanks to the generosity of the 400,000 benefactors of Aid to the Church in Need around the world. We are deepening our efforts to support persecuted Christians, our brothers and sisters of the faith, on both a humanitarian and emergency level, who, for example, in the Middle East, Iraq and Syria, have been forced to leave everything because they refused to deny their faith in Christ. I must say that I was so moved on my recent visit to Iraq, where I entered a small space of only 15 square meters, where today 9 to 10 people live. And in those small 15 square meters, I saw a cross and a Bible. It is something that renews hope in the hearts of each and every one of us. It's about sharing hope. Let's go back to our initiative with the Trevi Fountain. We can verify the international impact that the initiative has had in the world where there's renewed hope. To know that not only in the United States and France, but also in India, a country that isn't immune to the violence of fundamentalism, but it's a different kind of fundamentalism concerning the Catholic Church and the Christian communities, but nonetheless equally as dangerous from every point of view. To know that through our initiative, the world, for a few minutes or for a few days, woke up to and focused their attention on the persecution of the Christian faith. This, again, has fueled our hope. We know and we are convinced that we are fighting a just battle, a good fight, and for this reason we won't hold back on any efforts to continue with this dream to stop Christian persecution and share hope with the world.
Many thanks to Mr. Monteduro, who expressed that events like the one at the Trevi Fountain in Rome and St. Abbondio Basilica in Como are meant to share a sense of hope of Christ with the world, even in the midst of suffering.